Welcome to Drive Time, episode 10. I wanted to share a couple quick thoughts with you about Orion the Hunter and the mythological tradition in ancient Greece of this important character. We see him in a few different sources. He has a number of different birth narratives. He has a different death narratives. But because he is a character that is prevalent and pervasive, is a long tradition. He's extremely antique. And you just picking one would be almost to unravel the whole complicated story that is Orion. But I want to give you a little bit of a background on some of the things that we know about Orion. And one is that he is the he's the son of Poseidon and Eurale. And Eurale is a daughter of Minos. And he has this sort of superpower, this ability to walk on water. And he decides that he's going to marry Merope, a princess from the island of Chios. And he travels there. He just walks over the water from Boeotia and gets to Chios. And as part of his betrothal, he is asked by Merope to rid the island of animals. And so this is his quest. And since he is a mythological hunter and a hero, a demigod, he's very good at it. So he begins to eradicate the lions and the bears and the tigers and oh my of Chios. But the problem is, once he's done, Merope is not really satisfied, and her father doesn't want to give his daughter Merope to Orion. So he's upset, naturally, and from a number of different sort of sources, we find out that he rapes Merope. And as a result of that, the father blinds him. So we have this blinding narrative. So there he is on Chios, the blinded hunter. And so what does he do? He decides that he's going to leave the island. He leaves the island, and guided only by sound, he hears the hammer of Hephaestus hammering away on nearby Lemnos, and he travels there. And he gets to the island, and we learn a little bit about this from a lost work from Hesiod's Astronomia, but most of it comes from later sources. But what's he do? He abducts a helper of Hephaestus, and he puts him on his shoulders. And I'm always reminded of Master Blaster from Mad Max. The Master is on the shoulders, and Blaster's the big guy that carries him around. But there we have Orion carrying this helper of Hephaestus on his shoulders. And what do they have to do? Well, he wants to get healed. So he has to travel east. Hephaestus tells him to travel to the east, to Helios, the sun god, to the extreme east, and he will be healed. And he's guided by his attendant on his shoulders, on Orion's shoulders. So he sets off. He finds Helios in the extreme east, and the rising sun has this capacity to heal. We talked about it in a previous episode, but his sight is restored. He returns the attendant to Hephaestus, and then he sets off to Crete, where he encounters Artemis. So now that's where you get the sort of stories between Artemis and the hunter Orion hunting together and their affair with each other. And what happens then is he again hunts with Artemis, and as a gift he wants to say to her, I will, and he does, he says, I will destroy all the animals, right? I'll kill everything, maybe even on the earth, but definitely on all of Crete. Now, Artemis is sort of intrigued by this boast, but Earth, the great goddess Gaia, hears this, and she's not too happy about his choice here. So she summons a great scorpion. And in the constellation Orion, which is in the southwest, right next to him is Scorpus, and that's the scorpion that is part of this tradition. Now, there's a number of different ways how he interacts with the scorpion. One just says plainly, he comes out, it stings him, and he dies. And then he goes through this process of catastrophization. Artemis asks her father to immortalize him by making him into a constellation and by transforming him into this group of stars. We also see him at this moment of separation in the Odyssey. Odysseus encounters Orion in the underworld. So this is pretty common, but again, it talks about the extreme antiquity of the myth. linked through with characters like Heracles, where he is simultaneously a god on Mount Olympus, but also as a shadow that exists in the underworld that we encounter in the Nacusis and in the Odyssey. So Orion is there as well. And what happens then is Orion goes on to become the great constellation that we see in the sky. So there are a number of sort of myths that surround his life and death, but a fascinating character, one that doesn't belong exclusively to the ancient Greeks, because astrology is extremely ancient. It starts in the Near East and Babylonia in about 3000 BC, so we have ties into Gilgamesh and Shamash and Helios and Heracles even. Sometimes Orion is thought to wield a club, he's thought to use a bow, and even in some stories a sword. So it's a huge cultural metaphor. It's an expression for a very polyvalent hunter-type figure, a hero whose power and reputation is so great that he continues to inhabit and always be chastised by the scorpion. So those are some of the things that we'll be talking about on the next episode of MythTake, along with a few others. And do keep watching, and we'll see you again. It's been fun. Orion the Hunter.